Bir diğer DOST, İslam'a Hizmet Ödülü ise İslam dinine Kur'an öğreterek yaptığı hizmetlerinden ötürü bir de Kur'an adlı kitabında toplayan bu çalışmalarını Bruce Lawrence'ın. ...1941 yılında Amerika'da doğdu. Amerika'nın çeşitli üniversitelerindeki eğitimlerinin ardından başlıca araştırma alanları dini hareketlerin mukayeseli araştırması, kurumsal İslamiyet, özellikle Asya'daki Hint-Pers tasavvufu, şiddetin dini maskeleri, tek tanrılı inanç ve din ideolojisi olarak çağdaş İslamiyet, Müslüman kozmopolitanlığı ve azınlıkların rolü. Bu konularda kitaplar, makaleler yazmış, dünyanın çeşitli yerlerinde seminerler ve röportajlar vermiştir. Bir kitabı da Kur'an-ı Kerim bir biyografidir. 2 ayrı baskıda Amerikan ve İngiliz, dünyayı değiştiren 10 kitap logosu altında Grove Atlantic tarafından yayınlanan Çapraz Kitaplar serisinden bir tanedir. 16 yabancı dile çevrilmiştir. Ayrıca Bruce Lawrence, Kuzey Carolina Üniversitesi'nde okuyan her öğrencinin Kur'an okuma zorunluluğunu getiren öğretmenlerden birisidir. Kendisini davet ediyorum efendim. Lütfen Bruce Lawrence. Rahmi Yaran Beyefendi'yi ödül takdimi için davet ediyorum. Lütfen efendim. Çok teşekkür ederiz Rahmi Bey, sağ olun.
Thank you. This is a great honor and a pleasure. When I was first invited to do a short overview of the Quran, I declined. I'd been immersed in the study of Islam for over 40 years and I realized how little I knew of the noble book. I was not an expert. I was not qualified for this challenging task. The publisher insisted. Please, he asked me, please consider those who know less than you know. Consider those for whom the Quran is a closed book. Don't think of other scholars or devout Muslims, but everyday Americans, Europeans, those who only know about Islam from the headlines or the internet. They need something more. They need an elementary, accessible introduction, one that speaks about the noble book from an outsider, insider perspective. I am an outsider, insider. I am a believer, but not a Muslim. I accept the Quran as the final message of the Great One, the only true God, to humankind. I am an insider to the extent that I know Arabic, and I try to use Arabic for the benefit of humanity. The foremost document that commends Arabic, and so the Arab messenger, is the word revealed to the last messenger, to the final prophet, to Muhammad Mustafa. And so I reluctantly accepted the challenge to write a very basic book on the noble book. I spent over 3 years writing and rewriting what is now the Quran, a biography written in English but translated into 18 languages, including and especially Turkish. My goal in this tiny work about the noble book is to retell the story of its reception. How did different Muslims and even some non-Muslims hear its message during the past 1,400 years? I begin where the noble book itself establishes the limit of human knowing. No one can exhaust the Quran, as it itself attests. Say, even if the Quran were ink for writing the words of my Lord, the ocean would be exhausted, but for the words of my Lord were exhausted, even if we were to add another ocean to it. From Surah Al-Kahf. The 15 vignettes that comprise my little book only hint at the surfeit of meanings that make the Quran unique. They are intended to do for the writer, whether Arab or non-Arab, Muslim or non-Muslim, engaging both the text and the context of the Quran. Contexts are always crucial. For though the Quran as a whole is authoritative, its content must be applied in particular contexts. What aspect of the Quran applies? And where? When does it apply? And for whom? While no context can exceed the text or limit its further potential, every context does show how human agents channel their understanding of the Quran for specific pragmatic ends. And so I turn to the great Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. He said it best in Fihi Ma Fihi. He observed, the Quran is above all an amazingly jealous piece of magic. It contrives to say frankly in an opponent's ear what he understands but cannot comprehend or take any delight in. If it were otherwise, it would snatch him away, for God has sealed up their hearts and their hearing. What a wondrous grace he has to set a seal on those who hear without understanding and who deliberate without understanding. Yes, God is gracious. His wrath is gracious. His sealing up is gracious. But unlike his sealing up is his unsealing, the graciousness of which is beyond description. And elsewhere, also in Fihi Ma Fihi, the great Maulana observed that the meaning of the noble book is not limited to the intention of the reader, the listener, or the interpreter. Many people do things for purposes contrary to God's purposes. God wanted the religion of Muhammad to be exalted and evident and to remain forever and ever. But look at how many different interpretations have been made of the Quran. Volumes, 10 by 10, 8 by 8, 4 by 4. The purpose of these authors, notes Maulana, is to display their own learnedness. Zamakhshari, in his Kashaf, explains so many minutiae of grammar, lexicography, rhetorical exposition. And why? In order to show how learned he was. And yet, despite his self-seeking, the real purpose was accomplished, and that was to glorify the religion of Muhammad. All people do God's work, even though they may be ignorant of God's purpose, and even if they have in mind another purpose altogether. So while pragmatism is not the sole way of evaluating the Quran, it helps us understand history not as told by men, but seen through the eye of God. Allahu alam bis-sawab. Only God knows what is right. The Quran, and by extension Islam, is primordial and infallible. It is we human beings who are mortal and always fallible. Among those many voices who have expounded the Quran is the African-American leader Imam Warisdeen Muhammad. Though he died some 4 years ago, after my book was published, he applauded my appreciation of what he called his lifelong jihad. The Imam did not assert the Quran provides a staging ground for warfare. For him, the Quran requires jihad, but jihad as a battle between good and evil. The highest temporal pursuit for Muslims, in his view, is to be pragmatic citizens in a 21st century global community. Deeply grounded in the Quran, Imam W.D. Muhammad remained open to engaging non-Muslims throughout his long, productive life. He sought allies in a larger war against poverty, racism, and degradation of our world or environment. He sought a world at peace where the true jihad is for justice, not armed conflict. Often overlooked by mainstream media, the voice of W.D. Muhammad is as important as the voice of the sick woman, a figure who also appears in my book. And it is to her that I dedicate the last chapter. She is anonymous, but she is a pious, illiterate believer who seeks the Quran as a catalyst, a means to restore health, often invoking Ayatul Kursi, for instance. But if she's not granted health of body, she still seeks health of the spirit as she prepares for the day of judgment which awaits us all. There are many heroes in my book. They include Muhammad Iqbal, the great poet of Pakistan, and of course, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, whom Iqbal admired. There are also less famous people, also heroes, like the sick woman who puts her bedrock hope on the Quran, and like Imam W.D. Muhammad, who invokes the Quran as a signpost for African Americans and all people of faith. I am grateful to many people who made this event possible, but especially Jamal Nur Saligat, a tireless worker for the cause of true jihad, a blessing for those who know her, whether in Turkey or America, Asia or Europe. Thank you, Jamal Nur, for this further blessing on me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.